Okay, so now we've gone over the basics of how to insert links, images and videos. Let's move on to the content blender. I'm using this directory of articles, which is in the normal format. The content blender is a little less involved than the link insertion tools. Here we're just going to select our folder of articles that we want to blend together. Add as many different directories as you want, of course. Keep in mind that each folder is blended separately. If you do add two folders, then the contents of the first one will not be blended with the contents of the second one. Then we set our options, and the first option is Preserve Article Titles, which treats the first line of an article as a title and will leave it intact while the rest of the article gets blended. Our next option is how many files to blend at a time. This might seem like a confusing option because it really gives you a lot of control over just how much each article gets blended. Let's say we set it to blend at 10 articles at a time. This means that for every article in your articles folder, it will open 10 articles at a time and mix them all together, which also means that every file will be blended 10 times over. The more articles you blend at a time, the more unique your content will be, but it will also be less readable and will take longer for the blender to process. Next we have the single file output options. When this option is enabled, the blender will compile all text files in your article folder into a single file after it has finished its run. Note that individual files are still being blended first. They are not left intact when outputting to a single file. You can also output the file in a spintax form. This basically puts an opening bracket at the beginning of the output file and a pipe between each article and the closing bracket at the very end of the combined article. If this option is not selected, then there will simply be a line break between each article in the output file. The output file will be located in the articles folder, but if blending multiple folders, it will create a separate output file for each one. And there are 4 different blending methods, each with a short description of how they work. You can either shuffle sentences or paragraphs or splice them. The main point is to keep in mind when choosing a blending method is that splicing sentences and paragraphs will produce content that is less readable but more unique. Which method is right for you depends on your needs. There's also a 5th option, which is none. This is just in case you want to merge a folder of articles into a single file using the single output options, but without actually altering the contents of the articles. For this demonstration, we'll blend 10 articles at a time using the sentence splice method with titles preserved and the single output option enabled with spintax. So we've got all our options set and it's time to run the blender. First let's pull up a couple of text files for a before and after comparison, and we'll choose this one here. And as I said earlier, we'll splice the sentences together. Okay, so now you can see the task is finished running and all these articles have been spun together. Now let's open them up and compare. You can see already this is the old version I've copied and pasted into a different notepad so you can see both at the same time. That the opening paragraph is different, so the title's been left intact and all these paragraphs have been blended. Scroll sideways and some of it still remains, as you can see here, but most of it has been blended. So the number of paragraphs is the same, but the contents of each paragraph is radically different. Each sentence has been cut in half and swapped with each half of a sentence from other articles, and this was done 10 times over with each article, and is almost certainly unique as far as the search engines are concerned. Now the other folder that we span, this one here, these articles were in spintax. Now it's important to make sure that none of these articles that do have spintax have any bad spintax code, such as extra open or closed brackets. Content Spiffer will preserve properly formatted spintax, but a mismatched bracket can cause it not to recognize spintax at all, and this causes a chain reaction of bad spintax being propagated. So this is why you should always have your original articles saved somewhere else, just in case you need to do the run again in case there is bad spintax. But Content Spiffer also has that covered, because before you blend the articles you can also validate the spintax in all the articles in the directory by using the validate spintax button, and it will remove the files and place them in a new subfolder if it finds any bad spintax in those articles. So this means you don't have to manually locate, fix or remove articles from your article folder before blending Spintax articles. So run the validate Spintax option before blending your Spintax articles. And the other thing we did is that we made a combined article. As we can see here, this combined article is a combination of all the articles after they've been blended, and each one is separated by a pipe sign. Let me just find the next pipe sign. Alright, so that's where the second article starts, and the third. And this is really useful, for example, if you want to use SEO. Instead of having just one article and spinning that out to all the different Web 2.0 properties, you can have a whole directory put into one article quickly and easily, and then you can import that into SEO, and then the chances are that different articles will be sent out to different websites. If you're injecting links into your content, as we did in the first video, then make sure you do that before you blend the files together. Okay, and that concludes the blending section of Content Spiffer.